One Question is brought to you by Turnkey Search, a top industry search firm since 1996.
And do you recall the details of your very first head coaching hire that you would have ever been involved with, as an assistant or associate AD?
Sure, Matt. It goes back to Purdue when I was an associate AD, and honestly don't remember which search it was, but I was a part of a handful of coaching searches. Fortunate enough never to have to go through a high-profile coaching search. There was a lot of stability at Purdue during the time that I was there, but involved in several Olympic coach hires and the processes. At the time, I was probably a spoke in the wheel as opposed to the center of it, but it at least exposed me to the process.
Okay, how about the first head coaching hire that you made as an athletic director?
Good question. Obviously at Bowling Green, probably I'm trying to think, it would have been maybe a softball coach hire, and then from there over a period of close to 7 years, probably somewhere between 10 and 11 head coaching searches.
How has that body of search experience built a framework for how you conduct searches and identify talent and vet those potential candidates to come down to your decision? How has all that shaped how you do that now?
Each search, obviously, you probably learn a little bit more. And Matt, at the end of the day, let's face it, hiring good people, it's the most important thing that we do as ADs or leaders. And with each search, I really try to push the job description, that university official document aside. And I sit down and I probably came up with this, a long time ago, not sure where, but I literally take a sheet of paper and develop a one-pager of priorities for that program at that moment in time. And each time it's a little different. Usually come up with somewhere between 8 and 15 attributes. And I try to keep those one-pagers and those layers kind of go on top of each other, and I refer back to them from time to time through the search. And then that list of attributes, that becomes the measuring stick as you go out and you talk to different candidates.
So give us an example of the types of attributes, and you can just, use a specific search as an example, or if there were a men's tennis search right now at Xavier, like what would those attributes be right off the top?
Again, each one's a little bit different, but I've said this a lot over the years. I think that some of those key things that make people successful come back to, probably 3 or 4 different areas. One is clearly a person's work ethic. 2 is their communication skills. Can they articulate their ideas and their vision, whether it's in writing or verbally? 3, how a person works with others. Can they get things done with other people, and have they demonstrated that? Those are probably 3 things that you keep coming back to. And then for head coaches specifically, sometimes I think this business is unique in so many ways, but as a head coach, you have to have a passion for recruiting. As an assistant coach too, but you have to like doing that, and that's a little distinctive, obviously. As a head coach, do you have a bit of a CEO mindset? And that's true whether you're moving from a salesperson to a sales manager, or as an assistant coach to a head coach. Otherwise, so you don't get caught up in the Peter principle, so to speak. Do you have a CEO mindset to be able to run a program? I also think it's really important, who do they learn from? That's obviously critical in this industry, and you try to look at trees and where they gain their experience. Probably a lot of it comes back to values, how they're wired as a person, and do they fit into your institution and your organization. Haven't even touched on X's and O's for each sport, but that usually comes out in a process of vetting and whether that they even make it into your bucket or into your list.
Do you have any, go-to questions that identify, and, some people like to have a question that really digs in on the core of what a person is about. Do you have any that are standardized and the answer to a specific question in every search is really important to you?
You know, I don't know that I've got a go-to question. I certainly, like a lot of us, you keep track of questions, and I've probably got 15 pages worth of questions I've used or seen or liked over time. I often try to, again, peel the onion on things related to values. You're obviously always interviewing in a team in some different ways. I like to use a little bit of a kitchen cabinet versus a search committee. I myself get very involved even for our Olympic head coaches because you just know how important these hires are. And I also like to interview almost and this is a personal style process, in layers, perhaps. I don't know that I've ever hired somebody in just a one conversation. It ends up being multiple conversations, whether it's in person or over the phone, obviously both, because I think you gain a little bit of knowledge every time you talk to a person, reflect on it. But as far as those go-to things, whether it's values or how they've faced adversity or failure, that's where you probably learn the most about a person over time. Maybe the only thing you didn't ask, because a lot of times people ask, how do you get candidates? How do you keep a list and so forth? And, that's one of those things I think, and this, you stay very connected yourself. You're always canvassing the industry, whether it's talking to others or observing, coaching candidates, talking to ADs and commissioners. I think the NCAA, the people at the NCAA are a wealth of knowledge that don't always get used as much because they interact with so many people. And then, the national governing bodies too for each sport can be great resources.
Is your physical list, do you have a physical list by sport?
I do, yes.
Or a digital list, I guess?
A little bit of both. I've got some old-fashioned slips of paper and folders here looking behind my desk, and then you're right. In this day and age, a lot of it's kept on the computer too.
And are those just updated as you see developments, or maybe watch an opposing assistant coach, how he or she operates during a game, or head coach, of course? Or do you constructively, quarterly, semi-annually, annually sit down and say, here's what I saw this year for this sport out there?
I wish I was that organized, Matt. You keep track of names to some degree in certain sports, but a lot of times it's a note or an idea, or like you said, it's somebody you came across and you literally file it away.
And that's today's One Question, brought to you by Turnkey Search, a top industry search firm since 1996. One Question is designed to give D1 Ticker subscribers valuable insights on how executive leaders in college athletics think about key issues on their respective campuses, in their departments, or within their leagues and conferences. One Question is brought to you by Turnkey Search, a top industry search firm since 1996.